Welcome to Two Women in Crypto, a weekly podcast birthed on a whim by two women who are excited about the cryptocurrency landscape and have a shared passion about empowering others to step into the digital, tokenized world of the future. We offer tips, tricks, and our own individual insights as to how to begin to navigate this shift. We are not financial advisors nor experts. We are just here to encourage you to look at the possibilities. So welcome to the future. You're right on time.
Welcome back, Kelly. Welcome back to Two Women in Crypto.
Hello, good morning. We have a guest.
We have a very special guest. Everybody say hello to our friend and member of Two Women in Crypto group, Kim.
Hi, everybody.
Kim, it's so amazing to see you two sitting side by side. And like I said,
right
this
here
is what
where it's happening.
So
I
much
know.
fun.
And so look at the common theme here. We all have silver hair, gray silver hair. Is that not amazing? That's a beautiful weaving.
Yes.
So good to see you.
You too.
Yeah, it's just been so much fun talking crypto. We went down to the gold and silver shop. So we'll be bringing Dan on the podcast probably in the next week or two. So
Amazing.
going to be like talking gold and silver and what's going on in that market. So much fun.
I just want to say that I came down expressly to do an intensive with Andrea, also to have her as a friend and her lover as a friend. But I came down intensively to do an intensive on the Safepal Wallet, above phone, all kinds of stuff. So that is an option for all of you members of the Two Women in Cryptoverse.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we
that.
talked about that. Yeah, Kelly and I really like eventually what we want to do too is like incorporate almost like a healing, like digital detox and do like a crypto intensive and, you know, maybe get the hodlers to play a couple songs. So good things are coming to Two Women in Crypto.
They are coming. And, you know, technology, there's a balance. We all have to have a balance for all things. So that's what we would want to create and bring to everyone out there. So are you ready to dive in? Because yeah, it has started off with a bang today. Yeah.
We're good. Whatever. It's up to you. Whatever makes you more comfortable. I want Kim to be comfortable. She's like live in the studio.
Am I distracting just sitting like this?
No.
Okay.
You're
I'll be
fine.
quiet now, and
You're fine.
take notes. Okay.
All right. She's got her notepad, but you know, so we're going to get into like a bunch of news today. I just like, you know, Kelly and I kind of touched base about 20 minutes before we started. And she was like, how are you doing? And I'm like, I am so happy. I feel so good about what's going on in the market. And I know the world's kind of falling apart, but like, if we look at the bigger picture, we see what's happening, right? We're building new things. We're building better things. And it inspires me and it motivates me to like keep on going. And then wouldn't you know, like I'm listening to the news in the shower and the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, made an announcement. All banks are allowed to keep 1% of their reserves in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. So it's going to be Bitcoin and other cryptos, 1% of all banks. This is huge.
Huge news.
Huge adoption. And Pantera Capital is like a really large like institutional investment company. And you know, they had somebody on the news this morning as well, and he was kind of like explaining cryptocurrency. It's going to be like a tsunami. And we're in this stage before a tsunami, the water gets sucked out.
Mm-hmm.
So like
I love that.
The liquidity, like everything's getting sucked out of the system, and crypto is going to come in like a tsunami, and people are going to be in awe and shock because the next stage after this bear market is mass adoption. And this is something that we haven't seen before. And to me, this is much bigger than the internet, much bigger.
Yeah, no, I would agree because it's affecting and it affects everybody. I mean, everybody, and the internet did as well, but we could be slow on the uptake of this. This is really important stuff that's happening for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. Kelly's dancing.
She's got the wiggles in her giggles. Anyway.
I do. I'm super hyper. You know, plus I'm flying high with this lady next to me. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know what I mean? So, but that, I mean, it's just so much exciting news. This morning, Colombia, so the country in South America, announced that land registry is going to start being held on the XRP ledger. Okay, so this is another form of adoption where we're tokenizing land ownership. It's going to be deeds, contracts, all of these things. So we just want to keep this in mind. Okay. So again, more adoption as the price goes lower. And it's just like, this could be one of the last opportunities, right, Kel, to like start accumulating. We don't know if the market's going to go up or down, right? Jerome Powell's still going to be raising interest rates. We're probably going to be going down. It's going to be super volatile, but now is the time to start accumulating. Not when Bitcoin hits 50, 60 grand. Now.
Right. Everybody likes a good roller coaster ride.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and with that said, and I know like, you know, Kelly and I have kind of been talking about this could be like the year of like mergers and acquisitions, right? Because a lot of companies were over leveraged. And now we're seeing companies like FTX, which is one of the largest trading exchanges in America. They're putting together a deal to buy BlockFi for $25 million.
Yeah, that's enormous, and they will be the biggest. Well, that them and Binance, I would assume, would be the two biggest exchanges then. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. So FTX has a token, and it's called FTT. If people want to take a look at it, I think it's trading at about, I think I wrote it down, $24.50 this morning. Its all-time high was $80. Yeah. So, you know, definitely something we want to keep in mind. And again, it's just like they already own part of Voyager because they bailed them out. So in terms of like growth, you know, FTX could be like the Amazon of exchanges.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's also an exchange that works really well if you're looking at doing swing trades. It's a really, really good exchange for that too.
Yeah, really low fees. You know, it's definitely something. And you know, in terms of like, if you want to keep your fees down or you don't have a hardware wallet or, you know, whatever reason, like we don't recommend buying and holding your coins in the exchanges. But I would think at this period, FTX is the safest. Because, I mean, Sam Bankman-Fried owns FTX and he's bailing out all the other companies.
Yeah, it's huge. Thank goodness. I mean, and what I love about it is, again, none of this being financial advice, is that there is some peace of mind knowing that we're finding some stable threads, hopefully, through this, even though it's not necessarily all the direction we want to go, but we do need to have some very clear regulations so that we can move forward. So it's good. It's good news in general.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and this is the time too. It's like the strong companies that have the good backings are going to rise, right? Like we see Ripple expanding, we see Binance expanding, we see FTX expanding, you know, and then we see other companies aren't doing so well. And I know FTX was looking into purchasing Celsius as well, but there was like a $2 billion like discrepancy, and that's a lot of money. So it's not looking great for Celsius, but Simon Dixon owns part of Celsius. He has like a plan. I think I shared the video with some folks yesterday, but Digital Asset News brought Simon Dixon on and interviewed him for like a recovery plan. So if you guys want to go check that out, Rob is great. He does a really good job explaining everything.
I'll find that link and share it in the group here.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. And, you know, it's kind of interesting, too, because like we know regulation is coming closer. We know that the Ripple lawsuit is going to be wrapping up like someday. So like, you know, I see like Brad Garlinghouse and he's speaking. I think it was at Consensus or an interview or something like that. But he was basically saying like how the SEC is just like has been like contradicting themselves, right? So like Coinbase has to apply, right, for an ICO, like an initial coin offering. Coinbase is traded publicly on the New York Stock Exchange. Their ticker is COIN, if you want to check them out. So they got approval to go public under the SEC while they were selling an illegal, unregistered security called XRP. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So like doing the research, it's so interesting to see what companies have been sued by the SEC. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they all had to go and pay, right? It's kind of like pay your extortion.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah. So it's so interesting to see how this whole thing kind of like plays out. And then we have Hester Pierce, who's a commissioner at the SEC, and she came out and she talked about how the leadership of the SEC has just been poor, and they need to step it up and do a better job. I mean, people call her like mother of crypto, and it's kind of like that Dr. Seuss book, like, am I your mother? Like, are you my mother? I am not your mother. I am a hen.
Right.
So it's like, are you my regulator? I am your regulator. Great. Give me the rules to run my company. Well, I can't tell you that. I mean, that's exactly what the SEC is doing, right? It's just like, no, we're basically going to oversee all cryptocurrency, but we're not going to tell any company the rules and regulations of the game. We're just going to sue you.
Yeah,
right?
Exercising their control. They're just trying to continually show who is in control. And right now they have the upper hand, sadly.
Sadly. And the more people get educated, like I know more people even went to John Deaton. He has Crypto Law. If everyone can go to Crypto Law, you can actually sign the lawsuit. And John Deaton is the lawyer who's representing all Ripple holders. And they have the number of signatures now are like 68,250. So that's a lot of people that have signed this lawsuit. It's really, really important to let these people know we're watching you. We're watching you, and we know what's going on. Because the more pressure we put on them, then, obviously, like moving forward, it'll be more fair. You would hope, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find that link.
Now, the other thing that the SEC did this week, and we knew this was coming, it's something Kelly and I have been talking about, is Grayscale put in its application for a spot ETF, to put it on the exchanges, and the SEC denied it. And Grayscale has been beefing up their lawyers. So they have a team of lawyers, and they filed a lawsuit. That'll
be interesting to see how this plays out. When did this happen? Just yesterday?
Yep, it happened yesterday. Now, Gary Gensler came out on national TV and said that Bitcoin is a commodity. It's regulated as a commodity. So if Bitcoin is regulated by a commodity, how is it legal to reject a spot ETF from Grayscale? And he'll say it's volatile and he wants to protect retail investors, but that's an overreach of the government. Okay, you let the free market work itself out.
Yeah.
And so we're not in like a free capitalistic market anymore. I mean, this is like, we have example after example after example of the government's interference and how that hurts our economy. It doesn't help us.
No, it doesn't help anybody not to be in that frame of reference.
No.
Crippling everyone.
Exactly. So, and again, if everyone's like interested in hearing like John Deaton speak, Charles Payne, he's like one of the Fox Business News people, I guess. I think a lot of people like him who are conservative into that side. So John Deaton spoke with Charles Payne and they did an interview. I think it was like just a couple days ago. And he basically said like, Gary Gensler finally came out. It took him a year. He won't comment on any other digital asset because he wants it deliberately to stay in a gray area for as long as possible.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because in other countries, and we've talked about this so many different times, it's just not like that. That's such an open conversation everywhere outside of the United States.
Yeah, we pretty much have like clear regulation, and it makes sense though too, because the world is changing. The United States dollar is losing its sole status as a reserve currency. We're going to move into a basket of currencies. The IMF, all of these companies, the BIS, even Jerome Powell, they're all telling us it's going to be a basket of currencies. And the United States holds so much power. There's so much trading going on, and that causes the dollar to get de-dollarized, right? So the slower they can put the brakes on, the more they can kind of catch up and figure it out.
Right. And I think they're scrambling in many ways.
Oh, they're totally scrambling because Jerome Powell came out and said, I think he was talking to like Jeremy Allaire and a bunch of people. And Jeremy Allaire is he's the CEO of Circle. And Circle is backed by Goldman Sachs. Circle created the USDC, which is the United States digital coin. Now, the Federal Reserve, like Jerome Powell's just like, we're really going to get on top and look into like this tech. And Jeremy Allaire is like, look, for the past 75 years, all the adoption in the financial sector has been from private industry. PayPal, debit cards, clearing checks, like you name it, it's all been done by the private sector, not a federal agency and not by the government. Okay, because that's not where innovation comes. Innovation comes from entrepreneurs, right?
Well, absolutely. Here we are. And that's why it's so important for us to be out there doing the work that we're guided to do in all facets. That's where the true entrepreneurial spirit exists. And it's important for us to step out of line and follow those dreams. Just a segue, because it's all part of the weaving.
No, it's all part of the weaving. I mean, It's all part of the weaving. It's just like with the Pantera Capital, like talking about the tsunami of crypto coming in. Like it's all part of the weaving.
Yeah, so, it's a great analogy. I love that, the tsunami analogy is just really spot on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and to think about like even Kim and I were talking right before the podcast, it's just like to be able to buy a Bitcoin at 50 grand, it's not so appealing. But now it's what? It's hovering around 20. An 85% correction from all-time highs, 12,000. That's usually what happens during a bear market, during a full cycle correction.
Yeah.
Now buying a Bitcoin at 12 grand, way more appealing. And then you hold it, and then it goes back up to 69,000 and then some.
And we pay off our houses, she says.
That's right.
You can do so many things, right? So many things.
And it's such a good way to, like, I always look at life and everything. Like, I grew up like playing sports. So everything to me is kind of like a game. So money is like a game. So it's like, well, what would you do if you bought Bitcoin or Ethereum or MATIC or Chainlink, whatever it is, your favorite project? And then it's like, what's your goal? Is your goal to like feed yourself and your family? Because that's a really important goal. Is it to pay off your car? Is it to pay off your house? And how much investment would you need to make in order to sell that asset, in order to do those things, minus taxes?
Yeah.
Right. If you make 100 grand and you owe 100 grand on your house, you make sure you talk to your accountant first before you pay off your house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And if you're just beginning,
Yeah,
and if you're just beginning in the whole process, because many people are, a lot of the youth of today, and even those that are even in their later years, we need to also think outside the box and check out what does it look like? What's going to hold your property's title, if you will? What is a private members association? There are things that we can do to set us up legacy-wise through our families in a very protected state. So that's a whole nother topic, but it's part of it. And I think it's important to weave that in because we need to be aware of other opportunities for all of us within the system, quote unquote.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's such a good point. It's so important. Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What's that?
It's so exciting. I mean, I just get
so excited. I'm so excited today.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's keep going. I want to real quick. I want to talk a little bit about adoption, a little bit more, because Shopify is a pretty popular app. A lot of people shop at Shopify. Shopify is launching like an NFT platform. It's kind of like a loyalty program. Okay, so if you shop at Shopify and you're into like a certain brand, you can get loyalty points, just like if you go to 7-Eleven and get a card, it's loyalty points. And then you get discounts on some of your favorite products. And you also get access, to some of your, maybe it's a concert, or, with Shopify, it'll probably be like Nike sneakers or something like that. But it's going to be a big part of, like, we're going to start seeing more and more of these loyalty programs.
Yeah.
And social tokens that give you access to things.
And this is where I think the conversation around NFTs really becomes more solidified for me, because when you think about what the tangible use of NFTs at the beginning was, it's just acquiring this digital thing, whatever that was. And to see it become I think that's where a main focus will be moving forward, will be in the NFT worlds.
Yeah, and I kind of look at NFTs like the building blocks on the blockchain. Like almost anything can be an NFT. It's a non-fungible token. It's just the digital version of like an asset. We can have NFT art. We can have an NFT Picasso. So,
or a fraction of it. You could just own that one little fractal in that painting, and that's your NFT ownership. So it's pretty interesting.
No, it's fantastic. I love it. I love it. All right, cool. So the other thing too, like, when I think about, I know like Senator Senator Toomey came out this morning and said something about Gary Gensler, who's in charge of the SEC. And I look at some of the people who are in government, and then I look at like President Biden, and I just want to say this from like a humanities perspective. Okay. Like, when I look at the instability of society right now and the amount of division, and then I look at our leadership, okay, we need better leadership, y'all. Like, when I look at President Biden and he has to hold a 3x5 index card to go into a meeting, and he holds it up, and I think it was like the New York Post, like they posted on the paper, like they took a picture of it, and it was like, enter room, sit down. Yeah. So one, we shouldn't have someone like this running the country. And the other thing is, like, for me, it's elder abuse.
Right. I have complete compassion. It's
and that's the thing. It's
I
just
completely agree.
Who is allowing this to happen? And like, and then I'm like, are we in trouble? Who's in the government? Like, is America in trouble? And like, there's going to be a time, I believe, we're all going to come together. And we're going to collectively, in a small grassroots group, change things for the better. Because I see these systems like crumbling. Like, I see the central banking system crumbling. Like, they can try to do all these things. The BIS is such a good example. Like, you can listen to Augustin Carstens. He's the head of the BIS, and he talks about kind of wanting to control all of the money, like be completely transparent. Like, no privacy. But yet, as time goes on, well, all banks can hold 1% of crypto on the reserve, including Bitcoin, which is it's anonymous, right? So again, it's kind of like, it's very interesting. Like, they can say what they want to do, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It just doesn't mean it's going to happen, So yeah, I just kind of wanted to make that point. And with privacy being such a big concern, I know Kelly and I touched base on this before, but I want to touch base on it again. The above phone is a great privacy phone that's been de-Googled. And through that phone, you can download the Edge app and go on the waiting list to get a no KYC. So it's an anonymous debit card backed by MasterCard, and it's all no KYC. So you have your privacy phone, you're downloading your privacy app, and it's a wallet where you can hold your crypto that's connected to that debit card, and you could go to the grocery store and buy something, and the government doesn't need to know that you just bought some lemons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's really good. It's really good.
And do you want to share, we don't have the page to officially launch, but do you want to share a little bit about the above phone? Do you want to go ahead and speak to that part? I'll find our link for it, but go ahead if you
Yeah,
want.
so I mean, I've been helping out a bunch of people in the community. I'm getting their phones set up because, like anything else with new technology, there's a learning curve, right? And we're not downplaying this at all. Like Kim is right next to me, like, and she's like, listen, I just listened to their podcast all day long, and like you just keep going back, and like you have a notebook and you write something down, and then you go do your own research, right? You don't believe us, like we're human beings, we can make mistakes, and we have biases, like opinions. And then you just, and then eventually you just learn a little bit more and more and more. Same thing with the phone. I first got the phone, not a big phone person, and I'm an Apple person, right? I had an iPhone. I switched to an Android, totally different. And now I'm like zipping around my phone after 6 months. So anyone can, if I can learn this, anyone can learn this. So it's kind of cool. And our privacy is so important. Like for me, it's worth it. Like you can get a phone for $300-400, set it up and just use it for payment. For me, that's worth it to have some sort of privacy, because when I look at all the different instabilities and I look at our particular leadership right now in the government, it makes me nervous. I don't think the government has our best interests in mind.
Well, and we talked about having a phone for both worlds. At least for me, that's what I'm planning. I'd like to have this non-privacy phone, and then the phone that I have to use more effectively on this side of the fence. So I think they're, because we do have to exist in both worlds.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. So it's just really important. And like I said, and I can see it happening more and more, we will have two parallel financial systems.
Yeah.
Right? One's going to be private and decentralized. And that was the purpose of Bitcoin and blockchain, not to get Bitcoin on NASDAQ. That wasn't the point of Bitcoin, right? So again, we're going to be living in both worlds. And that's why it's so important just to take some time out, get educated. We have a great class we're putting together for the Federal Reserve Bank. It's really important to understand how our central banking systems work. How does monetary policy get voted on? How does it come about? How has it come about? Really important questions. And to take that knowledge to make something better in the future, not to build a centralized Web 3.0 on top of our already centralized system to make it more centralized. That's not what, and that's not going to happen. It's happening, but the long-term goal, it will be decentralized. Which is pretty cool. And it made it, because I was thinking a lot about, like, we went to the gold shop, and the guy, Dan, he's an awesome guy. And right away he's like, you got to buy more gold and silver. It's going up, and like everyone's been asking the question, like, why hasn't gold gone up? Inflation is 8.6%. Like, why isn't the price of gold going up? So I actually did a little bit of research. And like, I never heard of this before. Did you ever hear of the London gold pool?
I'm not familiar with the London gold pool.
I was not familiar either, but maybe it was something we should have learned in like our civics or social studies class.
Oh, did we have one of those?
I don't know.
That would be too empowering. Sorry.
I don't remember that. So, but yes, go ahead.
Just to take a left turn before we get into it, though, we bumped into a young man who's super sweet. He's super sweet young man at the gold shop, and he was buying his girlfriend a present. And we were chit chatting, about gold. And I looked at him and I was like, "Do you know what the Federal Reserve is?" And he was like, "Does that have something to do with civics?" And I was just like, "It's our central bank." And Kim had mentioned our Two Women in Crypto podcast, and he took my card and put it in his pocket.
Yeah.
Awesome. What I mean? Like young people, like it's really their future. You know, like we've been talking so much. It's like we're transitioning. We were born and raised with no computer, no internet. We're the bridge between the new and the old, you know, or the old to the new, but do it in a way that benefits humanity and not entraps us, enslaves us, right?
Right. And that's why we're here doing this. It's, you know, it's like people, we have not to, you just can't step into line. You just can't step in line and just do what they're telling you to do. We beg of you to lean in, to understand. Whatever line you choose is up to you, but just understand, aware of the choices. That's all.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Empower yourself.
Yeah. And the more I learn about like the history, like of the central banks, it's kind of like we go through like these cycles. So back in 1961, they did like this cooperative, right, with a bunch of other countries. I think it was like 8 central banks. And what they did was they manipulated the price of gold by like selling a little bit when it bumped up in price, and then they would buy a little bit when it went lower in price. And they did it, I think, for 7 years. And then finally France pulled out of the London gold pool, right? Because the European countries, the euro and the United States and their dollar wanted it controlled. They wanted it manipulated, because if everybody rushed to gold, and think about what's going on today, if everyone rushed to gold, it would devalue the dollar and the euro. So they made a plan, right? And they manipulated it. And this was all part of like Bretton Woods, and anyone who hasn't researched Bretton Woods, look it up. Okay. It's super important part of our past with the financial systems. But they had confiscated our gold, right? In 1935, they revalued it at $35, and then they tried to keep it controlled and manipulated. And as soon as they couldn't do it anymore, the price of gold shot up to $850 an ounce. And I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but it makes me feel better knowing that I own gold and silver.
Yeah, absolutely.
We own
even
both.
if it's little coins. Yeah, you know, you don't have to go. A lot of people think that you have to go and buy a brick, like gold bullion in a brick. You can buy gold coins. You can buy it in very simple
grams of
increments,
gold.
weight intervals. Absolutely. Coins, whatever it may be. And just real quick, I'm going to do a quick left turn because Kevin just posted that he's on a plane watching you. Rock on, TWNC. So here we go. Back at you, Kevin. Have a wonderful trip.
That's
and
right.
Hope has a question about the above phone, which we'll circle back for. But back to just really quick, and I know we're going to have your new friend on for a podcast. You know, you can go to jwbullion.com and buy gold and silver in very, very simple. So if you've got baby showers, or if you've got a wedding or birthdays, they're great gifts to give and they're wealth producing for whoever you're gifting them to. So think outside the box versus going down to the local store and buying something, which I support your local retailers, absolutely, but also think about other options for gifting as well.
Yeah. I mean, talk about a great gift. That's such a good point. Like we went to our friend's 25th wedding anniversary and it was silver. Yeah. So we gave them gold coins, and they had never held like a gold coin like that in their hand. And they were like, it's an experience. It's like a spiritual experience to hold that in your hand. Yeah. Really, it's cool. It's like growing your own apple tree and picking that apple and eating it. It's real. It's tangible. It's in your hand. It can't be deleted by a button. Right.
It's part of the mother. There's a very visceral reaction when we work with the alchemical properties of those metals. Yeah. It's more than just the monetary piece. It's a very spiritual, cellular activating part of the world. So.
Absolutely. And I think another good thing too with the gold and silver, because I know people have asked me before. So I actually did ask Dan, who's like the local shop owner here, and he can like work with you and get it shipped to your house. And like, we trust him. We know him, you know, like he's someone we'd actually hang out with, like brilliant man. So we'll talk to him about getting connected to do that as well.
That's great.
Yeah. And with that said, as assets are falling, I still think gold and silver will fall too. We don't know for sure, right? But, usually when we keep raising interest rates, hard assets go down, right? We're seeing the housing market go down substantially. The number of applications for mortgages, I believe, is down 25%. Okay. Now the inflation numbers are still running hot. So at the end of July, Jerome Powell will probably do another 0.75% rate hike. So that's probably what he's going to do to keep trying to get inflation like nudging a little bit lower. But and again, it's just like we keep creating more money. Like I don't see this happening. And this is part of like that, the modern monetary theory that we've talked about in the past. Like I think they just want to keep printing money and expand our current system. It seems like that's what they're doing.
It seems like it's pretty easy for them to do it as well, right? I mean, they have control, just like what they're doing, isn't it, in California that they're giving people? Anyway, keep going.
No, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So in California, Governor DeSantis, let me pull my notes down here. So Governor DeSantis is offering universal basic income, all right, to pretty much almost everyone that lives in California. So if you make $75,000 or less, they're going to give you $350 a month. If you make between $75,000 and $125,000, I think they're going to give you like $250 a month. And then on it, like $125 to $250, they're going to give you $200 a month. So it's an inflation relief. But again, you're taking money from the government, giving it to people to offset the price of oil and, gasoline, and to offset the price of groceries, which is just going to create higher prices.
Yeah.
But the money has to come from somewhere. And if you're getting the money from the government, they're going to tax you on it like pretty quickly. Right. And then we have to worry about like hyperinflation. But my biggest concern now, Kelly, and I'm sure you can see this too, is like when I'm on LinkedIn and I see like massive amounts of layoffs are happening right now in California. And again, it's just like, okay, so if we have massive layoffs and if we start getting high unemployment and we get high inflation, that's actually called stagflation, which is probably one of the worst things that we can get into. We don't want high unemployment and high inflation, right? I don't have a job and gas is $6. And I looked up the price of oil this morning and it's over $108 a barrel.
Yeah, it's
not going down anytime soon.
No,
it's not going down anytime soon. And again, when you listen to the media and all week, they're actually starting to put Biden, they're pulling like all the times he's blaming Russia for high inflation. This isn't the government of Russia's fault. This is all the governments around the world telling us to stay home and shut down our business. And now we have major supply chain issues and they flooded the stock market and corporations with money. I think like BlackRock and all those big companies, they added 20% of real estate. They bought like 20% of all the real estate that was for sale in America.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And we've talked about that in prior podcasts where people, an individual that I know actually was trying to rent a home in Texas, went to sign the lease and it was a BlackRock lease in the fine print.
Yep.
Of some sort. So there's lots of things I want to mention just as a thing, because I think you said Governor DeSantis when you meant to say Governor Newsom for California, maybe?
No, Governor Newsom in California. He's okay. So they're taking the UBI out of the state of California's budget. Now, it's not a done deal, but we got to remember what's coming up. We got midterm elections. These folks have been doing a bad job. So it's kind of like, the way I look at it, it's hush money. Here's some money, reelect me.
Right. No.
right?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
I mean, look at it's theater. What's going on in the political? I mean, it's that absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Instead of like trying to get the market more stable, so maybe some of the rents in California can be lower. If you're a family of 4 and you make like $105,000, that's poverty. So I don't think $200 or $300 is going to help someone making 75 grand. It's not. It's not. A healthy economy will solve all of this, and we'll get there. It's just going to take time. And people like us who are watching the markets, we're dollar cost averaging. We're slowly buying back in to build our crypto bags of our favorite coins because the prices are going to go up. Think about it, Kelly. 1% of all banks are going to add Bitcoin and other cryptos to their treasury. Is the price of cryptocurrency going up? 1%. What happens when it's 2%? What happens when it's 5%? And we own it before the treasuries of the banks do.
Yeah.
And that's why
we've been saying you're right on time.
Yeah.
Yep. Got to be right on time, folks.
We are right on time. We are right on time. And the longer we have to increase our bags, like the more wealth will accumulate, in a couple of years, for sure. For sure. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. So with that said, I want to kind of go over, because I do think this is going to be the year of cross-border payments, which I always talk about. And it's also going to be the year of scalability and interoperability. And I want to talk about this for a second, okay? Because we always go over the cross-border payment tokens, XRP, XLM, Algorand, IOTA, XDC. I want to talk about the systems that help other systems connect. Okay, so we have Polkadot, Solana, Avalanche, Ethereum, Cardano, Cosmos, Tezos. Pick your favorites and just do some research, because what's really interesting, Kelly, and I pre-apologize, I didn't send this to you, but there's always like a little surprise. There's always a little surprise for Kelly. Solana made an announcement. They have a cell phone for Web 3.0.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Interesting. Solana has had a lot of problems, and we've seen good projects have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Thorchain. We saw Thorchain go through a lot of problems when they were trying to scale up, and, and they started just, got hacked or whatever it may be, but they come back. They fix the problems and they move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at least they're not putting their head in the sand or selling you a bill of goods. They're not selling you a bill of goods. They're willing to look at the issues and work on it versus lie right to your face and then move on and do something completely different. So
exactly. Yeah. So if you believe that Solana is going to make it, $24.50 today, 200 all-time high. Sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're just in an interesting time. And, that being said, a lot of us have had monies being held on various exchanges, and we decided to be safer than sorry, and consolidate or maybe even sell some of those holdings to be able to make sure that we have things off of the market. Mm-hmm. Just because you might have sold a position in a coin, maybe it was Solana, doesn't mean you can't get back in. There's plenty of opportunities. We're sitting at a really beautiful space right now.
Yep. And we need to do research as well. Sorry, my voice went. Sorry.
Need some more water?
I'm drinking. Okay. I got a tickle.
Well, and we do need to do research. We need to lean into, but that's why we want people to tune in here, because we're so fortunate you do so much of the research for us. Not that we're saying that we are the end all be all for financial advice, because we're not. We're just chatting. Everybody's got to lean into the projects and do their own research and understanding, because every time we speak, I learn something extraordinarily valuable. Yeah. And when I was talking about like doing your own research, check wash trades.
I don't think they passed the law to make them illegal.
Oh, see, we have to look into that. Would you explain what that is? Because, back at the end of last year, the thought was, so wash trades is that you are holding a position, you sell the position so that you can perhaps claim a loss on your taxes or whatever. And then you were supposedly having to hold and not re-enter the market for 30 days. And then you could re-enter the market. But at the end of the year last year, many people were selling and then rebuying right away to establish a new position, and they weren't waiting the 30 days.
Correct.
So we just don't know if that law actually passed.
Right, because a lot of the new tax laws that I'm looking at aren't slated to be passed till 2023.
Yeah, which is really important at this time that we're in right now. Because if you are sitting on, which a lot of people are, especially if you just came into the markets, a loss or what have you, where you could easily negate that for tax purposes to some degree. So again, but we're not financial advisors. Just want to make that clear.
And check with your accountant before you would do something like that. Just shoot your accountant a quick email. You know what I mean? Because if it's still legal and we can do them, it might make sense, right? Because most folks are down, right? The market's really down. But if we can sell our polka dot, if we bought it at $20 and buy it back at $7, you're getting the same amount of tokens. And then you can write off that loss on your taxes, which is a huge benefit.
Right. Yep. So something to look into.
Yep. Because the lawyer that I've listened to in the past, he said it was going to be passed this year, but I haven't found anything that made a wash trade illegal. So
we'll look into it a little bit further, maybe for our next podcast, just to see what we can find out. Again, though, ask your CPA, whoever that you've been involved with for a long time, or just absolutely lean into what feels right.
Yep. And again, I think it's really good for any of these tokens and any of these systems that are going to connect. So like the Internet of Value is going to move like without friction. Just look at their all-time highs, do some research, and just be like, do I believe that this company is going to make it? And look at like, if it's $7, like Polkadot, I think Polkadot hit almost $50. Do I think Polkadot's going to go up to $50? I think Polkadot's going to be $100. Eventually, it's a really good project. So again, getting it at $7, to me, it's a gift. I feel like we have a lot of gifts. And I really like what that guy said about that analogy with the tsunami. Like, I do feel that tsunami's coming. It might not come for 2 years, but when it does, like, that's when we don't want to buy. We want a dollar cost average when the prices are low, when there's fear, when everyone's screaming on the news about crypto and all of these things. We just want to keep dollar cost averaging.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I know we're getting close and we'll be tying up fairly soon, but I want to go back and touch on a couple of questions that came in while we were chatting. One of which was when we were talking about the above phone, going back to that, and we were talking a little bit about having a foot in both worlds and maybe a phone that functions in the decentralized world and a phone that functions over here. But Hope asked, what do you use your above phone for? If you were...
So I actually use my above phone as my main phone. Okay, so I don't download Telegram. I don't download any apps that are like, and I'm not a big app person. Right. But I have my old iPhone that I leave home, and that's where all my apps are. So I have both. Like I said, I have some money on my above phone, but I made sure it was private. So the app has to be private in order for me. Now, most people aren't going to be like me. They'll just download their apps, and that's fine, But again, it takes away part of your privacy, and there's trackers that attack your data. So if you're downloading like a Google app, Google is going to be taking your data.
Absolutely. And speaking of data, real quick, let's talk about that, because yesterday there was that article about Coinbase selling our data.
Yep. So Coinbase sold our data on geolocations.
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting how transparent the blockchain is and how the regulators are coming after us like we're criminals. We didn't do anything wrong, you know, but it's just very, very interesting. And again, data is the new oil. So data is the most valuable resource in the world, and it's being monetized, and we should get paid for our data, not Coinbase, not like some of these health organizations. There's so much speculation that even big therapeutic companies are selling our data. Be careful, you know, like if you're like spilling your heart and being vulnerable, what are these companies doing with your data? Digital and digital health is here. It's coming. My wife works in the industry.
Yeah.
Is it centralized? I'm all about it, but it's got to be decentralized or I'm not going to participate.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, you know, that lends us to some of the tools that are available at our fingertips to help protect us. And one of those would be the use of a VPN.
Yes.
So something like NordVPN. A VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. You know, it's really, we have to be on that thread of a learning curve and thinking about some of the ramifications of our choices or possibilities of infiltration. I hate to use those words, but using something like a VPN just gives you a little bit more of autonomy in the world within which we live. And I personally like that feeling.
Well, yeah, and it would really, that solves the problem of geolocation data selling, which is freaking weird, okay? It's weird, right? I mean, it's weird. But the other reason I like the Above phone, I paid $100. It's $100 a year. You get the privacy suite. And I use their VPN on my phone because I have ExpressVPN. It works great on my computer, but I actually had to take it off my phone because it was messing up my phone, like my phone calls and things like that. And with the built-in VPN, with the privacy suite, it works perfect.
Right. Yeah. So there's lots out there, lots of different ways to do it. You know, I for me as a techie, I use Nord because it doesn't slow down my system. I don't have the patience to deal with something that's going to be super slow when I'm doing video work and things like that. So anyway, there's lots of options out there, but just
and
leaning
more
into
coming and more coming, and they're going to be better and better. You know that, and that's the beautiful thing. Like the technology is only going to get better from here. You know, so. All right. Well, that was fun. What did you think? She's like live in the studio with me, like coughing.
And I'm sneezing. Oh, it's so fun to be here.
It's so good to have you.
So fun. Yes, to be around the two of you creating this.
It's awesome.
More people need to know about Two Women in Crypto. I'm telling everybody I know about it that can start thinking about alternate futures.
Yeah, for sure. That's what this whole thing is about. You know, like Kelly always says, like, you know, it's like we gotta like, you know, toe that line and cross it sometimes.
And lean in. I like that.
We gotta
lean into your own research and create your own future. That's what you guys are helping me and so many people do.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And I love that you're here. And the thing is too, it's like so many people say, I don't know what to say to people. And I'm like, you say what Jerome Powell says. Our economy is changing, and the new economy is based on technology,
right?
And we need to do some research, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this, everything, cryptocurrency, it's all it is. It's not money; it's technology,
right?
Yeah,
and that's it. And so let's just do some research and like, you know, create wealth so we can create new communities and help people and better schooling, and so there's so many possibilities, and it's happening. You know, and that's the beautiful thing.
The tribe that you guys are creating, I met many of them in person during my trip, and this tribe is very pure and very loving, and yet very knowledgeable and like appropriately self-interested.
Yeah.
So we can help ourselves and help other people. So anybody that's new listening to the podcast, come on board to the Two Women in Crypto membership. It is so worth it. They give you so much more than you ever imagined.
I love it.
Awesome.
Thank you. So as we wrap up,
yep. As we love it, as we love it, as we love it.
What do we say?
Hodl on and plant potatoes.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom. Your hosts for Two Women in Crypto are Andrea Caldero and Kelly Lair. You'll find more information and details regarding the Two Women in Crypto membership, educational and informative class and event offerings, and more via their website, twowomeninCrypto.com. Both Andrea and Kelly are available for speaking events and offer private consultations focused on helping individuals navigate the future. Until next time, huddle on.